Hey guys, it's Jodi here with Honeysuckle Hill Bee-stro, and I have Terre Haute Mayor Brandon Sakbun, and it's Sakbun, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Because I feel like I always say it wrong, so good deal. And I am so excited to have him. He's our next biggest city, so really what happens in Terre Haute kind of bleeds over into Brazil and into Clay County. So
And vice versa, right? Whether you're Clay, Park, Vermilion, Putnam, Sullivan, or Vigo County, if you add up those counties and you look at their economic potential, it rivals what we see in and around Indianapolis.
Oh.
And I think people often forget when they look at the state of Indiana that there's more than Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, and to an extent Evansville, right? So when these counties work together and have open conversations, we're stronger. And I've actually really had interesting conversations with elected officials from all those counties, trying to gain everyone's perspective and try to row in the same direction, which would be a strong regional economy, growing housing in all of those counties, and hopefully we get to a point where every single county is having an awkward conversation about schools. You know how to avoid that? Find a way to recruit more young families so kids go to school, right? That birth rate has gone down the last 20 years because it is way too expensive to raise a family in the United States of America. Way too expensive to buy a home in the United States of America. And when those problems start coming, like childcare and housing, you see young couples like me and my wife currently having a conversation around, okay, we have 2 kids, we have 2 beautiful daughters.
Right.
Are we done? Right? And that conversation
keep procreating.
So we have fewer and fewer kids in schools, and these rural counties and these semi-rural counties like Vigo County, around the Midwest especially, not just Indiana. If you ask me, they've been left behind, right? I see so many elected officials at the federal level kind of like brush by, and I'm like, hey man, I don't want you for an hour stop. I need you for a half-day tour to show you what a small business goes through in Vigo, Vermilion, or Clay, and how difficult it is to teach in those areas based off school funding. How difficult it is for some of these cities and counties to grow. Not like grow exponentially, just grow back to what they used to be 20 or 30 years ago.
Right. I've been looking at the stats for Clay County, especially in elections from 100 years ago, 110 years ago. We had 10,000 more people living in Clay County at the time, and a lot more industry. And Terre Haute had a lot more industry even whenever I was a kid growing up in the 70s. So
like we're bragging because we're about to be 60,000 again.
Oh, good. Okay.
And we've had back-to-back years of strong population growth.
So what's the height of Terre Haute population? Do you know?
72, 73,000.
Okay.
So I tell everyone, like, we're just level setting to where we were in the 90s. We're not, approaching uncharted waters.
Yeah.
A lot of times I have, different groups get frustrated. Mayor, do we need another housing project? Or why are we, not selling vacant lots inside of the city to the neighbor? Well, folks, there used to be homes there. And maybe if we were at 72,000 instead of the soon-to-be 60,000 that we're at, we wouldn't be in very interesting conversations about school consolidation.
Right.
So it is always interested me seeing in several of the counties around Terre Haute this conversation around, no, we don't want that project or we don't want to grow there because we used to have that. And the harsh reality is, if a city or county is not growing, there is no status quo because you and I get older every single day.
That's right.
Right? So if we assume that if we don't accept a project, we don't grow and we can maintain the, quote, status quo, that is mathematically impossible. As older and frankly wealthier generations continue to get there, we struggle to fill that gap in, and that's why you have to have a growth mindset.
Yeah. So your population growth, is it people moving in from Illinois or what are you attributing it to?
I used to think Illinois, and that's a good question. One neighborhood builder that I was just on the phone with a couple of days ago had 15 of the 17 homes he built sell before they even,
good for him.
Within weeks of the market. I said, where are these folks coming from? And we found families from Iowa, from Tennessee, from Florida. We are seeing an influx of employees from the state of Oregon because of InTech and the work that's going on there. And I used to think that it was always, okay, let's put a billboard up right at the Illinois-Indiana border that says, come over. Here's our tax rate. Here's yours.
Right.
But a lot of those folks who live in and around Illinois are very happy in their community. Right? They've lived there for generations. So when you look at the state of Indiana, here's what's concerning. By 2040, if we don't change our population demographics, a fourth to possibly a third of the jobs will have to go away because people won't be there to fill them. Right. And that's not we're not going to choose for jobs to go away. That's like physical people aren't going to be there.
Right.
So we have to study migration. How are we getting folks from other states? As well as immigration. How are we getting quality individuals to come to our communities? And I think it opens this interesting can of worms of, well, why don't the folks here continue to grow? Well, unless you fix the cost of childcare and housing, the folks who are here cannot grow. And it creates this super interesting long-term conversation about population growth in the state of Indiana.
Right. So I have never really done a deep dive into immigration. I know there's lots of different views and very opposing views. I don't have a strong opinion because I haven't done the research on it. So do you feel like that there's a way to get good quality, like you're focused on, okay, these are the people that we want, kind of like, back in the 20s and 30s, you brought in the stone cutters, from Italy and stuff.
That's a very specific conversation and a good point. So let's open that can of worms. My parents are immigrants. My father was a refugee who survived genocide in Cambodia.
Okay.
All right. And so he went to University of Hawaii and Ivy Tech, their version of Ivy Tech at Hawaii.
Okay.
Transferred to University of Hawaii, got his MD, PhD. He met my mother, who is the youngest of 13 kids from Jamaica, who also came on a working visa, and they met at Brooklyn Hospital.
Okay.
They then moved to Terre Haute, where they have 4 kids. My older brother was a United States Marine infantry officer. I'm, still serving, but was active duty now in the National Guard. My 2 sisters who live in Charlotte, one works for Bank of America, the other works in HR, both collegiate swimmers. And I think I use my personal example to share the story that when we think of immigration, let's not think of, hordes of people rushing to the border for a second.
Right.
Let's instead have a conversation about why is it so difficult for folks who are paying taxes, because believe it or not, immigrants are paying taxes even if they're not an American citizen.
Right.
To get their citizenship if they're an active member of society. And here's why I talk about that point. I have had very tough conversations with families in ICE detention who had been paying taxes for decades, who had tried multiple times to get their citizenship, who were eventually let go after months and months, but that was a painful process. And my frustration is we've created an immigration system that fails to provide value to the people who are playing by the rules, who do want to be here, and who are contributing members to a community. That's not the population that needs to be deported. I do believe folks who come into this country and commit crimes and don't come on a proper workman's visa and file the proper citizenship paperwork have failed to abide by the law.
Right.
I'm very, clear here saying that that is wrong.
Yeah.
We are awkwardly at the national level combining these two groups and how we talk about it.
We are. And not just at the national level, but in our mindsets as citizens too.
Yes.
And that's why, I haven't weighed, not that I have any weight, but I haven't even formed an opinion on it because I don't know enough.
And cable news isn't helping.
No, it doesn't.
Because it's playing the sound bites over and over again. And,
yeah.
And look, I try to be fair to both our political parties, and I have zero problem saying there is a clear fault with the Democratic way of doing this, and there's a fault with the Republican way of doing this. And people forget that President Barack Obama deported more individuals than Biden and Trump. And under his system, if you were picked up at a jail and you weren't showing the paperwork, you weren't able to show that you'd applied for citizenship, you violated a crime, you're going to go. That forced some folks on the far left side of the aisle to create the concept of a sanctuary city, which then bled over to an entire political party. And to an extent, President Biden forgot what strong immigration looks like. It's bringing quality individuals. It's creating a system to actually vet the paperwork.
Right.
And Senator Langford, who's a Republican, worked on a bipartisan bill towards the end of President Biden's tenure. And I hope that bipartisan bill makes it back up under Trump, because it did invest money into the system of immigration to help the right kind of folks come in.
Yeah.
And that does need to be a conversation. And, I think when we draw a broad brush and use it to paint and say everyone from Somalia is bad, that's not a correct statement, right? And in fact, a lot of the folks who come through the refugee program, I remind people in the community, my father came from a war-torn nation, survived genocide, and came through asylum. So there is a good example of why it matters. And the United States is caught in this awkward cycle. We are the best nation in the world.
That's why people want to come here.
Exactly. And by being the best nation in the world, you also have to acknowledge that you can't let China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, and Maduro for a while take advantage of others. And if we want to be the best, there's a conversation of what our foreign policy looks like. And this is always difficult because we have a lot of problems here in the United States. And if you need to maintain status quo and be able to say, hey, when the United States says you need to do this, NATO, you have to show why they should listen to us. And that involves a very complicated foreign policy.
Yeah. Fascinating. Well, on a little aside there, I'm glad that your parents decided to stay in Terre Haute, because I feel like we have a doctor shortage coming up too in Terre Haute, and they probably could have went anywhere, and I'm glad that they stayed. So kudos to them. Thank you for that. And talking about immigration, I have a friend that her son-in-law is from Brazil, and so he's been working for years to get his citizenship, and the thousands and thousands of dollars that it's taken, and he's been working this whole time. Came here for school, did all of his school, got a job, became productive, and it's like it shouldn't take that long.
Exactly.
Shouldn't be that costly whenever you've shown that you've got skin in the game already.
Exactly. And that's a very good, way to describe, okay, here's what we should fix on top of strong enforcement on the border, right? And I'm not brushing that aside. Right. Another comment that you made is about the rural medical shortage.
Yes.
Of course, Union Health is continuing to grow and needs more nurses and doctors. So does Sullivan Community Hospital.
Yeah.
Right.
I think every place does. And how do we fix that? To me, as a total outsider, it seems like, can we lower the cost of medical school so people aren't so much in debt coming out of medical school?
Or here's an alternative proposal, and something we are doing in Terre Haute.
Okay.
We have programs where juniors and seniors get into a hospital, earn their CNA.
Yes.
Go to, Ivy Tech, St. Mary of the Woods, or Indiana State. Get into that nursing program, walk off the graduation stage, right into a job at a local area hospital. This is an apprenticeship model that identifies talented individuals and supports them through their medical journey.
Okay.
And that's the nursing example. So we need more of that, which we are working on. Ivy Tech's working on it. Indiana State's working on it. The Vigo County School Corporation is working on it. That's a good program. What we also have that people don't realize at Indiana State University is Indiana University has a rural medical program there.
Yes.
So the conversation there is, well, why don't we expand the total amount of medical students we have and try to double it? And through the rural medical program, there are some really good scholarships that lower the cost of medical school, like you mentioned. The problem that we're seeing is rural doctors compared to doctors in a big city, who's going to get paid more?
Yeah.
And a lot of these, frankly, younger folks who are finishing medical school, they see a more lucrative path. They see a larger community that has amenities like shopping, like we always use this term quality of life, and I hate when politicians do it. Because it's more than just parks, shopping, dining, and a place to grab a beer. It's, some of these communities offer a total package that a young family is going to look at. Strong schools, parks, right? On top of shopping and dining, it's walkable or it's, consolidated so you can park your car once and walk around.
And there's activities for their kids, sports that, like lacrosse and things like that, that you don't have in a rural community.
Which is growing. Yeah. So, but to your comment, part of it is expanding on some of the programs we already have.
Okay.
As well as ensuring that when we communicate to kids in high school, hey, we have these programs, we communicate to them, we have programs that will land you a job and a career. And some of the programs we have in Vigo County aren't just about going to nursing school or medical school. There's a number of programs that focus on the skilled labor industry. If you ask me, the next big batch of $1 million millennials or $1 million young folks is getting in to be a pipe fitter, getting in to be an electrician.
Yeah.
We have a severe shortage of people who can work construction, and with, frankly, the open checkbook that's led to a huge rise in data centers, they're paying so much for construction. The second and third order effect is something like a city contract to rebuild a building or rebuild a road is starting to get more expensive because of labor, not even the materials, which of course are going up with inflation and tariffs, but it's hard, a hard reality of we need more young people to know how to pick up a hammer, and I would encourage every school corporation in the 5-county region that I just mentioned to embrace that.
Yeah. All this is super fascinating, but I also wanted to talk to you because you're a Democrat. I'm Republican, but I feel like I'm kind of going through a little bit of a metamorphosis because I've always boxed myself into Democrats bad, Republicans, love Jesus, and so Republicans good. And so as I'm having conversations with folks, I'm realizing that, by golly, some of you Democrats, you love Jesus too.
Yeah. And it's been a challenge, and I think the conversation of faith and politics has always been difficult because would Jesus be a Democrat or Republican? He probably would look at both groups right now and say
one's Pharisees, one's Sadducees.
He's like, you guys aren't doing great.
That's right.
And let's kind of try to summarize, which I hate doing, but when it comes to, for me personally, okay, helping the poor, right? Being the type of team player that says the cards you've been dealt in life aren't the same cards I've been dealt.
Right.
So what can I do to create that rising tide that lifts all boats, right? We have a policy in Terre Haute where if you ride a city bus, you pay $0. Okay. And some folks look at that and say, oh my gosh, this guy is woke, or what is this progressive policy? Well, really, it helps the small businesses, the grocery stores. It helps employees go to their employers, and it helps people earn a livable wage because cities have grown out instead of up. And if you don't have 1 to 2 cars, which are very expensive, by the way, it's hard to live. And so to me, when I said, hey, city buses should be free, and we're going to use some of our casino tax dollars to pay for it, it wasn't because I was woke. It was because I recognized that families in the city of Terre Haute could not afford some of the basics. And my faith calls me to create a community in a world that allows them to live a humane life. And I think an interesting conversation that we've always seen is, why are Democrats on some of these social issues at times out there?
Yeah.
And is it because they believe in everything that someone else is doing? To me, it's not that. I don't believe in some of the individual choices that people make. But what I do believe is I can't let any one group be vulnerable and be villainized and be attacked. And it's been this very hard internal battle with my faith of, man, I really don't agree with that, but I don't want you just to get beat up all the time.
Right.
And hard.
Yeah. So would you say that, because everybody has a worldview, what do you base your worldview on and your decision making on?
That was really, a lot of that was shaped in the United States military.
Okay.
When I had the opportunity to go overseas twice to a number of different nations in the Middle East, and I tell a lot of folks, and my family included, if when you see what it looks like when there's zero conversation around rural or urban healthcare, because there is no healthcare, when you see that there is no SNAP benefit in the country of Afghanistan, everyone's fighting for food, you learn that what we have in America, to an extent, we are spoiled. And it's okay to say that.
Yeah, 100%.
Do we need to do a better job of allocating some of what we have so everyone can live at least a decent life? Yeah. And that's a conversation that I enjoy having. But when you see some of the challenges in these third world nations, and I've had the opportunity to also go to Europe with the military and go to a country like Montenegro. That's not Paris, France, right? That's a country that's pretty close to this place called Russia. And has interesting challenges and a poor economy and different conversations around what defense spending should look like or what spending should look like from their government to make sure that the lights turn on.
Right.
Some of the basics. It shapes your worldview of, wow, how do we take the comment of America is spoiled and turn it to America has the resources to create opportunities for Hoosiers, for Americans to excel in the world, in their own nation, and truly be the best, truly build the most impressive public infrastructure like interstates and train, passenger rail, to truly embrace the conversation of, hey, coal produces a limited amount of power. What happens when coal runs out? Can we have an open conversation that using all energy types, we can create a nation where prices are going down because we are embracing wind, solar, hydropower, and to an extent, limited nuclear energy in the right locations, of course. But, you look at a nation like China. There is no conversation China. It's their way or the highway. But you look at how much energy they've produced the last 5 years, it is 10 times more than what the United States is adding to the grid. They're going to approach a conversation where the average person in China doesn't pay an electric bill because they produce too much electricity.
So what are they using to produce?
They've really embraced different types of solar, wind, and nuclear energy.
Okay.
And it's fascinating because as you look at where the world is going, with so much in technology, so much in AI, it's also going that way in warfare. And from a national security conversation, and I appreciate Senator Todd Young because he's willing to have this conversation. He says, look, folks, we don't necessarily like data centers. But if we don't have them and someone else does, what tools do they have at their disposal that we do not? And it's a very interesting conversation because there's not a right answer. There's not a wrong answer. But there is a conversation of how can we modernize some of the systems that we have in the United States of America. Our interstates are falling apart.
Yeah.
And other nations are building high-speed rail. Imagine if you could get from Terre Haute to Indianapolis in 30 minutes on a high-speed train. That could change entire economies. It took South Bend 20 years to get rail access to Chicago, and it helped change their community. And the reason why I say 20 years is because politicians at all levels, local, state, and federal, have forgotten how to build, but always remember how to add unnecessary regulation to make it hard to build.
That's true.
There is a weird intersection here of Democrats and Republicans that is slowly starting to come together, and I see it a lot of times with younger elected officials, to be honest, who are saying, hey, we've added too much regulation. And maybe it's not stripping all of it away, but it's stripping some of it away. So that way when we are building things, we can keep up with something like the housing market and actually address the national housing crisis we're in.
Right.
Maybe we need to embrace public infrastructure.
Do you think that there's kind of an age, there's a age litmus test, I guess you would say, to get into politics? Do you feel like that there's a point in time where, you like somebody's wisdom, for guidance, but maybe they're, their days are more behind than what they are ahead. They start looking at the end of days instead of the future as bright and looking at the next, multiple generations. Do you think that there's an issue with that in the politics?
I do. And here's how I answer this. I don't think there should be term limits in local government for like a city or county council. I do believe mayors should be term limited. Like I'm very clear that I'm going to run for one more term.
Okay.
And then at that point, I'll have had 8 years. And similar to the governor or a president, you should have 2 terms, right? At the federal level, though, I do believe in term limits, right? Because this is not America of the 19 and 1800s where, they go, they do their work, then they go back to their community. You have so many elected officials that are literally forced to have a second home in D.C.
Right, that's right.
Because they're there so much.
That's right.
And I say forced because
right.
if you have a family, you're now going to be away from your family so much,
Right.
and it makes a very difficult conversation. And I mean, I don't fault any of them for doing that. what I will say is, I do believe in congressional term limits.
What's your perfect term number?
I fought with this, but I've always said, at 10 years for a congressman or woman.
Okay.
I mean, Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell have been there for too long. I think it's okay to say that, right?
And we don't know if Mitch McConnell is still with us at this point in time.
We don't know, right? And it creates a problem. And I do believe in the Senate, I've always struggled with 2 or 3 terms because their terms are 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to say 12 versus 18 years.
Yeah.
And so I lean on the side of 12, but I just don't have the best answer to that today. At the State House, some of the folks who just lost their primaries this May, they were probably going to lose regardless of if the president put millions of dollars against their opponent because they had been there so long. And there is a wealth of institutional knowledge that you need.
Right.
I call on mayors all the time from around the state who have been there for 16 years. I still call the former mayor, Duke Bennett, at times because he was there for 16 years and he knows some things.
Right.
And it's okay for a younger guy or gal to reach out and leverage some of that wisdom to say, hey, can you walk me through why you did this?
Right.
Can you maybe give me some advice because I have 2 or 3 options here, and neither one I love, but I kind of like all 3. Now, to do that, though, younger folks who are getting in office need to have a whole lot more humility. I see a lot of younger elected officials who walk around like they're large in charge, and they've beaten someone, and it's their way, and it's young versus old. That's wrong. I believe there's a young and old conversation to this, and we have to find a way for folks who are in their 30s, 20s, or 40s to accept the fact that someone in their 50s, 60s, or even 70s knows a thing or two about how to live here and how to govern here.
Yeah.
And we can bridge these 2 generations to create an America that works for folks who are 10 years old or less.
Right. I like that. So one thing that I hear about you, because if you're only going to serve 1 more term, that you may be running for governor at some point in time, or you want to address any thoughts that you've got out there?
I'd be happy to. So my wife and I are very happy. We have 2 kids under 2.
Okay.
Right. Well, my oldest daughter turns 2 in September.
Okay.
Right now, I'm just trying to figure out how I can get them both to sleep at night through the night.
God love it.
Obviously, we have next year's mayoral election, and look, I'm focused on Terre Haute. I'm focused on the present, and I've had a number of private sector companies reach out and say, "Hey, when you're done, would you come work here?" And I really don't engage in those conversations, and it's not because I don't want to by any means. It's I was taught early on when I was with the Rangers, if you don't live in the present and think so much about the future, you'll kind of forget what you're doing and it won't make as much of an impact.
That is good. That's good advice. Yeah.
So have I received calls to run for things? Yes. Openly, I have. And I tell them all the same thing. And it's usually a joke about how I'm trying to change diapers and run a city right now, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And I just got to focus on today and the present, and who knows what tomorrow holds. And I will be very direct, though. The higher up you get in politics outside the local level, the nastier it gets. And I'm at the point where, as mayor of Terre Haute, I can have strong opinions on state and national politics, but I can also just do the darn thing and fix someone's life locally.
Yeah.
And you lose some of that the higher you get. You kind of lose connections to the people, and to be honest, that scares me, right? Because then you stay in this political system where as you get higher, you forget about the old school teacher who encouraged you to run when you were in 3rd grade. And for me, that was Jenny LaRoche at Sugar Grove Elementary School.
Nice.
And I don't want to, be a public official that spent so much time on a plane or in a car that they forget about conversations like that.
Right. So really, you were in 3rd grade whenever the idea first came to you to run for office?
I was a horrible 3rd grade student.
Oh.
I was very good academically, but horrible behavioral-wise.
Okay.
Because the unfortunate reality is the American education system is kind of built off test scores.
Yes.
So I was like, I score well so I can act out. And my teacher was like, hey, look, I talked to your parents, which scared me. My dad got on me. I was like, all right, I got to stop. And we're going to keep you busy. And she would just give me books to read and be like, just stop talking, just read. And I remember there was a book about government. And there was like a single page with like a quick picture about a mayor. And I'm like, hey, does Terre Haute have a mayor? And I don't know if she was serious or joking. Yeah. She goes, you can do that too one day. And I'm like, okay. And that was it. In third grade, I was like,
I love
man,
that story.
I should run for mayor one day. And now in fourth grade, I do tell parents this, you have to watch what your kids watch on TV. Because me and my brother, kind of like, it was late at night, we snuck downstairs and we watched this movie called Black Hawk Down.
Oh.
And then after my time at IU in the ROTC program, I decided not to take my Kelley School of Business degree in finance to go to Wall Street or Chicago. I decided to go active duty military to join the 75th Ranger Regiment. And sure enough, I served in the same company and battalion that is in the movie Black Hawk Down. So to your question earlier about, would you run for something else? I tell everyone, I really don't know what I would do when I would grow up. I have gotten to live my dream of be the mayor, get a chance to run again, serve in the military, serve in the unit that was in a movie like Black Hawk Down that did some incredible things and unincredible situations, still serve in the Army National Guard, be a father, have a great wife and 2 great girls. So it's when you get those opportunities at a younger age like mine, it's like, it's okay to be content.
What's next?
It's okay to be content before you try to think about what's next.
Okay, let me ask this question. What else is on your bucket list? Because it seems like you've checked off a lot of things off your bucket list, and you got a lot of life to live ahead of you.
There are 2 really specific policies, like government things, that I've always been fascinated in. One is veterans policy.
Okay.
So 76% of veterans are obese within 3 years after leaving the military. The suicide rate is anywhere from 22 to 26 seconds. Every 22 to 26 seconds, a veteran commits suicide.
Wow.
So I've been very interested in veterans, not just healthcare policy, like you go to a doctor, you get prescribed medication, like holistic health. So on top of whole healthcare, what are you eating? What's your sleep schedule? How are you still maintaining a physically fit life? And how are you doing in the workforce? And I've always been fascinated because the VA is this bureaucratic beast that does do some really good things, but also struggles. And I've always kind of just, wanted to help out with veterans. And then the second thing that I've always been interested in is international and foreign policy, which I'm sure you got that from my rant on immigration earlier. But I've always been interested in that because I've done, some stuff with the military and gotten to go overseas. And those 2 fields have always kind of interested me. And then the third big one that I've really grown to love as mayor of the city of Terre Haute is economic development.
Okay.
So it used to be, well, you bring in a Sony DADC and have 500, 600, 700 jobs that pay whatever an hour. Well, now the conversation is, what if you bring in a company that doesn't just need people, but it needs people to have certain certifications or accreditations? Can we get that done at high school or at Ivy Tech?
Okay.
Before we just pivot to everyone needs to go to college. And how do we create a long-term workforce? How do we make sure that when a company comes to town, we have the right number of homes? Because if a company comes to town and a bunch of people move, now that housing market's going to get kind of jacked up.
Right.
So when it does come to economic development, I've always been fascinated around those conversations because everyone used to talk about Terre Haute as this city with potential. Well, if someone says you have potential for like 50 years, you probably haven't fully performed and gotten over that potential hump. And it's just been interesting and something that I've enjoyed, attempting to fix as mayor and continuing to try to fix.
Do you think that we're doing a good job getting young people to realize that the trades are, I'm going to use the word sexy, that there's something that, you don't need to be ashamed of it. It's something that everybody needs. Everybody loves to see their HVAC guy pull in whenever their air conditioning's not working, So do you think we're doing a good job that way?
I think we're doing a better job. Okay. A lot of the unions I work with have full marketing budgets now.
Okay.
And then I think, time will tell. We're probably 5 years away from being able to really answer that question as yes or no.
Do the unions recruit in high school?
They do have high school recruitment programs. Okay. What's also interesting, in Terre Haute and Vigo County, we have a program called Community Corrections. So a lot of people make mistakes in life.
Right.
Sometimes those mistakes do lead to jail. But if it's a lower level crime, and you were raised in a different situation than you and I were raised in, could you send them to a place like Community Corrections that does a program like work release? that has electronic monitoring, that does have behavioral health services like a psychiatrist to talk to. And through this program, we have seen a lot of the young men and some young women there embrace the trades, make more money than they ever would without a little bit of structure.
And totally change their family dynamic.
Change their family dynamic. And that's what's incredibly important is what we do see is a lot of the folks who, when they enter the criminal justice system, especially if they have younger kids, it has such a negative impact on the younger kids.
Right.
So how can you retool them and set them up for long-term success so they have something like health insurance for their kids, as well as a livable wage?
Right.
And to me, that package that the trades offer is really second to none. I know right now, no, they're not seniors anymore, but they're about 19 or 20, and they work for a couple companies in town through welding programs, through labor programs, and they are on track, and some of them are already making more than the mayor of the city of Terre Haute. And that's a great thing to know, that those young men got into a program that's rewarding them. It's hard labor, but it pays well.
Well, maybe that needs to be on your bucket list then, if they're making more than you.
Yeah, I might need to go. Yeah, that's true. I feel like I could do some concrete work, but probably not anything with, electricians or the pipe fitters.
Okay, so let's talk about the suicide rate of veterans then. Has that increased in recent years, or has it always been that high?
So some of the data does show that it has decreased as the total number of combat deployments in the military has decreased. But when you dissect the data and look at units that are still continuing to deploy at a high rate, it's still pretty shocking there. And so my concern is a lot of people are under the assumption that our wars have winded down. And yes, the United States has left Afghanistan. That does not mean they're completely out of Afghanistan, but there is still such a high tempo. And what scares me is soldiers of today are facing different challenges than the soldiers of 10 and 20 years ago. There's a real financial challenge to being in the United States military. You're consistently moving. Is your spouse able to work? Yes, remote work has increased, but the job of a military spouse has gotten super difficult of trying to maintain a household under today's modern economy, trying to get a job if she wants or if he wants. And when you look at the challenges, it's gotten a little bit different. And I think, society, as it continues to get more difficult to live and be an American, I'm not confident that rate is going to drop off as the number of combat deployments has dropped off. And I really think we need to continue to analyze that problem. What I loved about the Army Rangers, when you left that organization, there was a team of people to help set you up for success. They were saying, hey, do you want to go get an MBA? Okay, well, let's get you trained to go to the best schools in the nation. Do you want to go get a law degree? Let's get you trained. You want to work? You want to be an HVAC? Okay, well, we know 10 Rangers right now in 5 states who have HVAC companies. Can we send you there? Can you learn under them for a year or two? Then can you go open your own HVAC company? It was the fraternity of all fraternities, because they said, when you take that uniform off and you take that tab and scroll off your uniform, you are still an Army Ranger. And we still love you like a brother, and we want you to succeed. And that level of commitment to young men and young women who serve needs to be all across the United States military.
That's what I was going to ask. So that's a rarity for that sort of commitment long term.
It is. The traditional force does have programs that help you as you transition out, but they're not to the same degree.
Okay.
And we've got to improve, whether you're in the National Guard or active duty force, whether you're a Marine, a Ranger, or a Navy corpsman. When you take that uniform off, has the government, nonprofit space, and for-profit space set you up for long-term success? That's how you take care of veterans. I see a lot of federal politicians, we want to pass this bill to take care of veterans. I'm like, we're addressing symptoms of a larger problem.
Right. It's connectedness and community that really kind of saves us, to be honest. Let's talk about funding for local governments. There's never enough, is what we've always heard. Okay. So what do you think? We had J.D. Prescott here talking about the service, doing away with property tax, going to a service tax. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't love it.
Okay.
It would be better financially for local government. Under J.D.'s model, it goes from about, I think, 10 or 11 billion in revenue to, I believe, 15 billion. To me, that's a 50% tax increase. And whether or not you're taxing goods and services or property tax, if you go from collecting, we'll just, summarize it, call it 10 billion to 15 billion, you have took $5 billion out of the economy that you weren't taking.
Right.
And so that's what's scary about that proposal is it's very easy to say, do you want your property taxes abolished? Honestly, yeah, then I work in government. Okay, how are we going to fund government? We're going to create another program that brings in more money. Wait a second, who's going to pay those additional dollars? The same people who are paying property tax.
Now,
so that's what's scary about it. And I will also say, here's the problem with local government. Okay, Terre Haute used to have 72,000 people. Now Terre Haute has 60,000 people. Our government workforce hasn't grown. We've actually reduced the total amount of people that are employed at the city of Terre Haute.
Right.
We've found efficiencies and we've combined positions. That doesn't mean that the wages stayed flat from 1970 and 1980 to 2026. And the reality is, it's very expensive to train and fund a police and fire department.
Right.
And if, the general population were willing to say, I want fewer ambulances and fewer police officers, then sure, cut your property tax bill in half. But I'm not willing to say that because I know how many 911 calls they go on each night. And so that is a challenge. If you look at the city of Terre Haute's budget, the general fund, which is predominantly funded from property tax, about $23.7 million a year comes into the general fund from property tax. Our general fund is predominantly wages and salaries for public safety. The fun projects we do, the quality of life projects, the infrastructure projects, comes from sewage bill revenue, economic development income tax revenue, and casino gaming revenue. The bulk of your property tax goes to make sure that when you call 911, we have a police department and fire department.
How much is schools, though, too?
Schools are, sorry, I was talking Terre Haute, city of Terre Haute specific. But you're correct. A large part of that does go to schools. Sorry, the overall tax bill.
Okay.
Correct. What scares me, though, is from 2008 to 2026, school funding has gone up. The yearly percentage increase, the rate of inflation is here.
Right.
The yearly percentage increase of schools has gone here. And then the state has made it beyond difficult to do this thing called take a building that the public paid for, a school building, repurpose it to something. A veterans training center, a job training center for those who are out of high school but maybe want to go into labor, or even apartments. So the taxpayers pay to build schools. And under current state legislation, if a school says, okay, like Vigo County, we're built for 24,000 students, we have 13,500.
Right.
Because the birth rate's gone down, our population's gone down a little bit, even though it's going back up, right? If you own a business, if you went from 24,000 to 13,000 customers, you'd have a conversation about how to use your business space.
Right.
But under current state law, if a school says, well, let's maybe get this space to someone who's going to use it, the first person they can sell it to is a charter school for $1 US.
Yeah.
Which scares me because I'm not against charter school education. I'm against the fact that as a taxpayer, I pay to build a building and you're going to sell it for $1 to someone who's going to compete for students instead of trying to make some money back to alleviate what we spent to build a building.
Right. I think you should be able to sell that building or give it to some other government entity that's going to utilize it. Yeah. So that seems like an easy.
Which other governments can do. The county can give property to the city. Okay. Indiana State can give property to the city. I've done transactions with both those groups and turned it into homes, turned it into businesses, and added to our tax roll and grew our community. So if other units of government can trade property, why can schools not?
Yeah, that seems like a no-brainer. You think it'll pass? Because isn't Greg Good carrying a bill like that?
He is, and I think more people are open to it because folks used to view that conversation as pro-school choice or against school choice. I tell everyone, I'm not the guy who's going to dictate where your kids go to school.
Right.
And I'm, Democrats have been labeled as, they don't want you to be able to choose where your
Right.
kid goes to school. No, I just want to make sure that if we're going to pop up charter schools, they're held to the same academic standards. They aren't getting a massive tax break in a school building for $1 that's almost shovel ready. And we make fiscally responsible decisions around education.
Right.
That's not pro-school choice or against school choice. That's just being smart with taxpayer dollars like other units of government have to do.
Right. So just going back to JD's thing, whenever we were talking with him, he said that he knows that it's a little high at this point in time, but he knows that it has to go high because it will not come out the way that it's going in, and that there will be caveats cut out of it. So that's why he's doing the 7%. He said really it needs to be, if it stayed true to taxing what it is that he has planned, it would only really need to be 5.5%. So I think that there's adjustment
It
there.
would, of course, adjust down.
Yeah.
Like I've said, the 15 billion number has got to be wrong.
Yeah.
When you take out healthcare, you're probably talking 12 or 13. So it does need continued refinement.
Yeah.
But what I am happy about is he has an opinion,
Yes.
and he's willing to do a study,
Yes.
willing to get the numbers,
Yes.
and willing to sit down with mayors.
Right.
Some folks will tell you one thing that vote against you that same day.
Right.
And whether or not I agree with J.D. Prescott, which on this I don't, because I think you're overtaxing, I can at least have a sit-down, data-driven conversation with him on this issue.
Yeah.
And I'll always respect him because of that.
Yeah.
Do I want to yell at him sometimes? Yes. But my amount of respect for him willing to put pen to paper on something is very high.
Well, hopefully by the time it comes out of the sausage making, maybe it'll be something that won't be so bad. Because I think it would.
That's how most ideas start.
I think it would help. First of all, I think there would be an influx of people moving in since we would be the only state to not have a property tax. So I think that would help with the tax base issue thing. Or, just people working and all that kind of stuff. The issues that we've addressed previously. And the surety of knowing that you own your home. And for young people, a lot of young people are buying their home in escrow, and then, they get assessed and they're already living paycheck to paycheck. And, this year they've escrowed where they owe more property taxes, and that makes it hard.
Here's what's scary.
Yeah.
So in Florida, you saw that massive influx.
Yeah.
And now you're seeing people leave because you have homeowners associations that want to raise rates to keep their infrastructure up.
That's so crazy, yeah.
And you have insurance problems. One of the reasons why Florida has some homeowners insurance problems is the public infrastructure, specifically stormwater drains, isn't being improved fast enough to deal with things like hurricanes. The biggest reason it's not being improved is a lot of elected officials there say, we don't have the money. Well, you cut the source of the money to fix the problem that would have lowered the insurance rates.
Yeah.
And the reason I like to talk about homeowners insurance rates is my homeowners insurance has gone up not because of natural incidents in the state of Indiana, but because that national insurance company is having to deal with wildfires in California, storms in Florida.
Right.
And I get frustrated because I look at my escrow payment and I'm like, wow, my taxes went up literally $20 from last year to this year. My homeowner's insurance went up a lot more.
Right.
And there is a problem in the insurance world, and insurance doesn't view states differently and views it as an overall problem. And I think what concerns me is we get this influx. We're not able to keep some of our services up to speed unless the tax on services is diligently written out to backfill and solve some of the problems we would get.
And that was one thing that JD said, that he felt like there needed to be a provision in the bill that locals had to save back so much money for those infrastructure sort of events. So anyway, okay, we should do rapid fire because we need to get to the kitchen and cook here.
Perfect.
Because I don't have all day with you. You're a busy, busy man. First, rapid fire. What do you prefer to listen to? A podcast, audiobook, or music?
Audiobook.
Audiobook. And so what's the book that has impacted your life the most?
Ooh, wow. Really good books of Boys to Men. It's about like the science of raising young men and how maybe they should start kindergarten later than their female peers. Because I do believe females are smarter than males to an extent. Like, that is true. There's more of them going to college, and because we're not raising young men correctly, they're falling behind in the workforce and in pay and in education. And when we saw this pendulum swing, there were groups of young men who were left out.
Yeah.
And there's a problem there. So A Boys to Men is a good book. And then what I'm currently listening to is Ego is the Enemy. And I love it. It really hones in on humility, empathy, active listening, and it's a good book.
I think that's an attribute that's missing in society is humility, and that was the attribute of Jesus. I mean, Jesus was humble, so I think we're missing that.
I blame TikTok.
Anyway, so what is on your playlist, music-wise? What do you like to listen to?
Good. That's a really good question. I like to listen to 98.5.
Okay.
The River. So I like classic rock, and then I do like some like electric EDM music that's, more upbeat and high beats per minute, because I'm always moving 1,000,000 miles per hour. So it's a very weird playlist, right? You've got some electronic music and classic rock. And they somehow morph together in my mind.
Yeah, works. So I take it that you work out.
I try to, not nearly as much as I did before kids.
That'll do it to you every
That'll
time.
do it, yep.
Yeah. So, so what do you listen to whenever you are working out?
My favorite place to work out in probably America is Stan's Fitness Center off 13th Street in the city of Terre Haute.
Oh, lovely.
And they listen to 98.5.
There's a good shout out for Stan's.
Yes, if you're looking for a gym, go to Stan's. They listen to 98.5 in there. I tell people, like, if you ever want to know if you're doing something right, go to a place like Stan's, where literally everyone has a wild political belief. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, or center. But you get opinions on everything, and you get a good workout in. So usually classic rock when I'm in the gym.
Okay, awesome. So who would you say inspired you the most in life? And you can't say your parents, because that should be a gimme.
That's a tough one. I will say I can think of a teacher in elementary, middle, and high school who has had a lasting impact on me. Just how they acted, how professional they were, and the guidance given to me. So I'd probably point to some of my teachers and coaches in that category. Yeah.
So what sports did you do?
I swam. I ran for a while, and then I was actually like 5'1" until my junior year of high school, and then I grew 10 inches in a year.
Oh, wow.
So I had to quit running. I just kind of grew so fast. I had some leg injuries.
Yeah.
But I swam, I ran, I played a little bit of tennis.
So would you consider yourself a foodie?
Huge.
Huge? Okay.
And I'm happy that I'm here and we're cooking, because I don't have a ton of hobbies outside of work and kids.
Yeah.
But I really love to cook. And my parents love to cook.
Awesome. Because I believe that since we're created in God's image, everybody has a creative outlet. So do you feel like cooking is yours, or do you feel like it's awesome?
Cooking. So I have the classic smoker. I love the pellet. Love it all. The Traeger.
Yeah.
Right next to a Blackstone.
Yeah.
Sometimes I sear it, then I put it on the smoker. I have all sorts, and I like to bake too.
Yeah.
Not as much as I like to grill and cook meats, but my wife will tell you, I am into food. I do not get to cook nearly as much as I would like.
Yeah.
Because work is busy and chaotic. Yeah. But I love to cook to the point where, at my in-laws' Thanksgiving, I'm like, I will smoke the turkey. I'll take care of it. We'll see you guys at noon. What sides do you want? I'll bring one.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Wow, you'd be a good son-in-law to have then that way for the holiday meals.
It's good for holiday meals.
So what was your birthday meal whenever you were growing up?
Yeah, I'll list some ethnic foods that I always like to have, especially around my birthday. So Vietnamese pho, which is a rice noodle soup with some meat. Goat curry and rice is a good one. And Jamaican jerk chicken is phenomenal. But on top of that, I really, this sounds interesting, I love a generic chain restaurant Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh.
I don't know why, I can't give you a reason, but nothing beats a B-dubs lunch on your birthday, and you're like, I'm going to watch an hour of sports highlights and have 12 hot wings and a side of French fries with shredded cheese on it and bacon bits.
There you go. What's your sauce of choice?
Hot.
Hot.
Always hot.
All right.
No need to change. It's worked for 30 years. It's going to work for the next 30.
Well, we're going to do something simple. We're going to do granola today. So
with hot sauce?
No. Well, you can do whatever you want with your granola. I'm going to leave it off mine. But anyway, so guys, join us in the kitchen when we make granola. All right. So Mayor, do you like granola?
I love granola.
Okay, perfect. So, most people think granola is healthy. It is.
Not my granola.
But not so much. So what do you put in yours at home?
Well, I love to have a little bit of peanut butter, a lot of brown sugar.
Yeah.
And every now and then, I've done some maple syrup, and I see we got some honey here, so I'm interested to see how it comes out.
Oh, I love the honey. Okay, so do you make granola at home?
Me? Not nearly as much as I should.
Okay, so I just always have to spray the pan with Pam. Sorry if I'm spraying you. But we've got 3 cups of oats in this bowl. I'm going to have you be the mixer, okay?
All right, 3 cups of oats.
All right, and then we got only 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. That's not so bad.
And we have some cinnamon in there.
We do.
Which is always perfect.
Right, half of a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And then for this, we're going to go ahead and mix this in. And that is 2/3 of a cup of honey and a 1/4 cup of oil, just so.
Any oil is fine?
I use canola for this one, but you could use olive oil if you wanted to. So then I just get in there and mix it up with my hands. This is so super simple, you guys. I mean, the hardest part is getting everything measured out. And we've already done that. So we made it easy for the mayor before he even got here. So there you go. And then we're going to bake this in a 350-degree oven. We're going to check it every 10 minutes. It's going to take 20 to 30 minutes. Depends on how your oven is. And do you like your granola to be crunchy, or do you like it to be a little bit soft?
Crunchy.
Okay. So we have a daughter that likes it crunchy. I like it a little bit soft. I'm older. I don't want to break a tooth, So anyway, just depends on how long you bake it, how crunchy you like your granola. So whenever you think that looks good, we'll just spread that out on to the cookie sheet and we'll throw it in the oven.
Perfect.
What kind of additives do you put into your granola besides
just thinking about that?
Because we're going to be adding in a little bit later after this comes out of the oven. We're going to add in some slivered almonds and some cranberries, dried cranberries.
Almonds are always good. So if it's an almond or a peanut, I think that's amazing. If I'm kind of like in a go mode, I'll do the peanut butter and a little bit of chocolate chips to help get more protein in, of
exactly.
course.
So you could kind of make this into like a protein ball too. With your peanut butter and everything. So, okay, now I would spread this out a little bit more, Mayor, so it won't take as long to cook.
Like nice and thin.
Yeah, nice and thin, so we can cook faster. But hey, that's just me. You guys can all do your own thing. But anyway, this is so fun.
And then I am one of those guys
it's fun to watch somebody else cook.
Who likes overnight oats.
See, I haven't tried overnight oats, and I've been told that I need to, and I need to try like the cheesy dessert thing too. I've been told that I need to try that.
Have we spread this thin enough?
That looks good. We're gonna throw this in, and again, a 300-degree oven for 20 to 30 minutes. But you're gonna want to stir it. What I like to do is spray a big spatula like this and just get in there and just flip it around. We did a little switcheroo like they do on professional cooking shows. So we already have our granola with the dried cranberries and the slivered almonds in it. And here is some Greek yogurt. I'll let you put some in a bowl for yourself.
Perfect.
And do you want your granola on top or on the bottom?
Go in there and put a handful up in there on top. We'll get a nice layer of granola.
Yeah, okay. Perfect.
A little bit more than that. I'm still growing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, look, I put more on than that. I don't need to be stingy. There's no need to be stingy around here.
Thank you. For those of you who are still tuning in, this is Greek yogurt with what?
It's a honey Greek yogurt.
Honey Greek yogurt.
Yeah, with our honey granola. So anyway, this is our little honey granola recipe. So I'm going to let you try and see what you think.
Taste test here.
Yeah.
See, I like to stir it up almost like cereal, so
Yeah.
that you get a good mix of yogurt and granola.
Exactly, me too. And this is probably a little bit softer than what you would like your granola, because you said you like it crunchy. So anyway, again, if you're making this at home, you have the total autonomy to make this whatever crispness you want it. What do you think?
10 out of 10.
10 out.
Amazing.
Yay! Yay! And see, that's made with honey instead of your maple syrup. So.
Well, I'm going to eat this whole bowl now.
Yeah, you go for it, because this might be lunch for you. I'm not feeding you anything else.
This is my lunch, so this is amazing.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for coming and the conversation and the granola making. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.